Big news, Multiverse fans. Morty's moveset, while we haven't seen it, has just leaked, well, at least the description part of it, so we at least get to find out what his moveset will entail. So let's not waste any time. Let's break down some of these moves that Morty's going to be bringing with him into Multiverses. And we will be starting off with the ground neutral attack here, and it is called Aw Geez Snakes. So I think that they're tapping into the Snake Jazz episode here, so I kind of like that. By the way, I'm just hoping for a Snake Jazz taunt at some point. That would be amazing, by the way. But here's the description. So if Morty has an active grenade out, he will fire a laser projectile at the grenade, detonating it on collision. Without any active grenade, Morty fires a snake summoning projectile forwards. After the delay, the projectile will split into two snake projectiles. One moves upwards while the other moves downwards. I guess that's kind of like them floating through space. I guess, is that the reference? I think that's where it's where that's coming from. But on cooldown, Morty will fire a laser projectile instead. And Morty can then combo out of these attacks to a whip attack that hits its apex. Hitting an enemy will pull Morty towards them. All right, cool. Sounds like really good sort of setup and great way to accumulate some damage on your opponents here. So that's it for ground neutral. So we'll move on to the up, or the air up as it's titled here, and it's called the Power of Fire. Looks like from the Planet Tina episode, looks like Morty will be making use of those power rings. So up first, Morty uses the power of an elemental ring to hit his enemies upwards and ignite them. So once you get ignited in the game, obviously they will take a little bit of damage over time, so kind of like a burn effect. So that's kind of cool. I like to see that they're getting the elemental rings involved. There are more, and we'll talk about I think one other one here, but it's cool to see some elements being involved in Morty's moveset here. Now let's go on to the grounded down attack, and this one is called Plumbus Time. Now Tony has told us on Twitter that Morty's going to have a plumbus. We had no idea what it was going to entail, but now we do. So, looks like Morty begins running his plumbus over the ground, hitting enemies and moving freely. Hold input to keep the plumbus out. The plumbus will cleanse allies, apply weakened to the enemies, and sweep enemy hazards. This sounds like it's like an all-in-one sort of an attack here. This could be very good. Very good. So like enemy hazards, for example, if Tom and Jerry are putting out like one of their mouse traps on the ground, if Bugs, I don't know if Bugs Bunny's safe. I don't know if that's gonna count. Maybe Arya's pie on the ground, something like that, I believe is what they say when it sweeps up enemy hazards. It's gonna basically, I think, make them just poof, disappear. So that's kind of interesting. That's an interesting one. But the plumbus will also cleanse allies. So I guess, say if your teammate has 5 stacks of weakened or whatever, and you happen to run by them with the plumbus out, apparently, if I'm reading this correctly, they're all stacks of weakened should just automatically disappear. So the plumbus, we don't know what it does in the actual show, but apparently in Multiverses, this thing is the everything in one tool. This is the Swiss Army knife that you need for a part of your moveset. Now on to ground side attack, which is called Unresolved Anger Issues. I like this one. I was hoping they would get Armathy involved here, but it says Morty pummels enemies with a combo of punches from Armathy, finishing by swinging a hammer. Morty? Okay, that's not a combination I ever expected. Armathy swinging a hammer Morty. Look, he is more than just a hammer after all. But in this case, we're using him like a hammer, so that's kind of cool. I like the idea of Armathy coming out, delivering some massive punches, and then you just swing around a hammer Morty. Like, come on, that's actually pretty cool. So I guess the one negative, the one little drawback here, maybe if you were hoping for a hammer Morty alternate costume, maybe this kind of will negate that, possibly. Like, would they really put a hammer Morty as a part of the moveset and then also make it a alternate costume? I mean, maybe it's possible, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that one. It still would have been cool to have like a hammer Morty in the moveset or as an alternate costume, but that's just me. Now on to Grounded Down special. This is perfect. I love this. It's called Temporal Backup, and this comes from the episode where Rick creates that save point device for Morty, so he can just kind of like repeat everything. I love that they're using this in the moveset. So Morty creates a save point at his position. After some time, Morty will warp back to the save point and heal himself and his allies slightly. That's kind of cool. Your allies will not be warping anywhere. Just Morty himself will be warping back to the save point. So press the input again to immediately warp. So you have a little bit of control when you want to warp back. So if you think you're about to be in danger, boom, input the attack and boom, you warp right back to safety. So that's kind of cool. This could be a really fun attack. But it also leaves a grenade in Morty's position before the warp. So it's kind of like a parting gift, right? It's like, hey, I was here. Now you missed me. Now you got to deal with the grenade. So that's kind of cool. And I guess grenade's going to count as a projectile, right? So that means you can start adding on any sort of those projectile perks. You know, the one for flame. What about the gray health one? Maybe something to do with ice or shock or something like that. So looks like Morty, not only is he a bruiser, but looks like he's got these, what are they called again? Grenades. How do I forget the word? But looks like he's got a whole bunch of grenades. A lot of the stuff in his moveset is revolved around these, and we got a little bit about his passive ability, which has to do with grenades, coming up in just a second. But this is kind of cool. Warp ability. He's in one spot. Run to somewhere if you think you're about to be in trouble. Immediately warp back to safety, and you leave a grenade behind, so that's kind of cool. Now for Grounded Side Special, Power of Earth. Getting those elemental rings involved once again. So Morty here will summon an earth pillar from the ground in front of him. Morty can charge to increase how far in front of him the pillar will appear. Striking a grenade with a pillar will split into two separated grenades. So it sounds like we can play around with this pillar a little bit. It might be able to be used for cover possibly. So if you got like an incoming projectile at you, Bugs is throwing a pie or Shaggy's throwing a sandwich or Batman's batarang, maybe if you can get this grounded earth pillar, up in time, maybe it just kind of like nullifies it and just kind of like cancels it out type of deal. So that'll be kind of cool. But striking a grenade with the pillar, gonna split it into two separate grenades, so just more projectiles to kind of play around with. So this the grenade thing for Morty, I guess that's kind of his gimmick, we'll say. So we'll be interested to see how that ultimately plays out. And now for the passive, which looks to be called Sci-Fi Explosive Technology. So many of Morty's attacks utilize grenades. We've seen a few of those already, yes. Grenades will detonate shortly after being thrown. If Morty overlaps with an ally, he will give them an idle grenade. Allies with idle grenades receive gray health and will throw the grenade in the direction of their next attack. Cooldown applies to giving allies grenades. Okay, good. There should be a cooldown on that. You shouldn't be able to just give infinite grenades, because then automatically busted and broken character right there. So good thinking on that for the cooldown. But so you pass by your teammate, you give them gray health, you give them this grenade, this idle grenade, so the next time that they do an attack, whichever way they're facing, they're going to end up throwing this grenade out in that direction. So this could be really cool. This could be a really fun ability. I know Tony has told us that Morty is going to be an expert character and that he's very excited about some of these setups that Morty can have. So I'm sure there's going to be some really cool setups with the save point attack that we talked about just a little bit ago, is Grounded Down special, kind of warping back and forth. So Morty sounds like a really intriguing character. As a fan of Rick and Morty myself, I'm even more excited about Morty than I was before I made this video, and I didn't know that was possible, so this should be good stuff. Either way, that's kind of what we got. I will leave the link to the article for the rest of the moveset here, because I didn't want to go over every single thing. Just a few of the more interesting ones that I felt. So, link to the article in the description. Go check it out to see the entire moveset description. Either way, that is it for this one. Hope you enjoyed. Morty's right around the corner, and I guess I'll see you when I'm looking at you.